I've lost count of how many times I've caught Gregory kissing other girls. I want to rush up and confront him, but all I can do is hide in a corner and cry. Today is my birthday. Gregory promised he'd spend it with me. Too bad, he forgot. Chapter 1. I wiped away my tears, packed up my things, and went to see Nova, my best friend from childhood. Now living in the hospital, terminally ill. I had just handed the fruit to her when my phone rang. I stood up and stepped outside to answer it. Not at home? It was Gregory. The image of that kiss flashed through my mind again, the kiss where he held a strange girl in his arms. I'm at Nova's. Aren't you not at home either? Gregory said unhappily. Didn't I promise I'd be back today? Your promises are too casual. How am I supposed to know whether they're real or fake? Brenda, stop making trouble out of nothing. I cut him off. Do you know what day it is today? What day? Don't tell me it's some kind of anniversary for us. I slammed the phone shut. No matter how many times I heard his words, they still managed to hurt me with pinpoint accuracy. A long time ago, we did celebrate anniversaries. When we had just gotten together, there were always things worth commemorating. 30 days, 100 days, 1 year. Later, when I tried to salvage our relationship, I also used anniversaries as an excuse to ask him out. What I got in return was always mockery. Over time, I stopped remembering them altogether. But Nova is sick, and her presence stirred up those buried feelings of mine. I thought birthdays should at least be spent together. After all these years, I still remember that kiss beneath the basketball hoop, carrying the scent of summer grass. But time passes, and that kiss can be given to someone else too. By the time I got home, it was already dark. Rarely so. The lights were on in the house. You called me back, and then you ran off to Nova's by yourself. What does that mean? I looked at his impatient expression and only felt annoyed. Didn't you not come back? Then where exactly am I sitting right now? He always snapped back at me, one line after another. We clearly got off work together. Why was I home already while you weren't? I've been Gregory's assistant for so many years. Our offices are just one wall apart. When he's in a good mood, he'll sometimes leave work with me, giving us a rare stretch of relaxed, leisurely time, as if we were still a couple in love. Do you want to install surveillance cameras behind me or something, so you can see who I meet, what I do, what I say every second of every day? Only then would you be satisfied? Gregory stood up from the sofa and kicked the coffee table hard. The violent jolt echoed through the living room and echoed in my heart. I lifted my head bleakly and looked at him. It's not whoever's louder who's more in the right. Gregory, this is what guilt looks like. As if he could no longer stand me, he stood up and walked toward the door. Brenda, if you can't take it, then get the hell out. This is my house, not yours. Do you understand? You're the one who begged me to be with you. It's not that I had to be with you. He slammed the door and stormed out. Suddenly, I found myself missing my birthday in the final year of school, the cautious touch of fingers in the dark, the cake Gregory suddenly pulled out from behind his back, and the way he softly sang the birthday song. That was my most perfect birthday. There was cake, and there was love. I always remember, it was a SpongeBob-shaped cake. So sweet it was almost cloying. I've never eaten a cake that sweet again, and I've never seen the lover from back then again. Maybe because I cried before falling asleep. My dreams carried me back to a time when I didn't cry at all. 0101. This is Nova. I smiled and took her hand. Nova. This is 01. Question, why is it that you help Gregory cheat every single time, and he still fails the exam? The English teacher loved giving tests, and anyone who failed would be criticized. Coincidentally, Gregory was terrible at English, so before every exam I would prepare a set of review notes for him and put them on his desk. Nova said this made me a modern-day selfless helper. Dreaming about our school days made me feel less angry when I looked at Gregory at work. Assistant Brenda, is the boss inside? This was the small-time influencer who'd been getting close with Gregory recently. She was pretty and well-behaved, but every time I looked at her face, my chest tightened for no reason. Avoiding her gaze, I said, "He's inside. You can just go in." She gave a sweet smile, said thank you, and walked in. When she pushed the door open and disappeared inside, I finally realized, staring at her back, there was someone she looked very much like. Flora. That year, I had just started college. Gregory and I were living in different cities. Even though we talked on the phone every day, there were still moments when I couldn't reach him. When you're young, you charge forward without hesitation, so even a dozen hours on a slow green train felt worth it. Just to go home and see him once. Just one glance, and I ran straight into Flora, who was walking out of his apartment. Wavy curls, a slender waist. She was beautiful. My heart skipped violently. Yet I still lied to myself. There are so many people living in the same building. How could it really be that kind of coincidence? But she stopped me and said, "Brenda, you're Brenda, right?" I felt the chill in the air. "You are." "Hello. I'm Flora. I've heard about you for a long time," she smiled. "From Gregory." I'll always remember that instant. It felt like someone had punched my heart as hard as they could. The pain was sharp and real. She smiled and said, "What a coincidence." My world collapsed. The small-time influencer walked out of Gregory's office and knocked on my desk. "Assistant Brenda, the boss wants to see you." Only then did I pull my heart back from my memories. I smiled politely and watched her go in to see Gregory. When I entered, Gregory was opening a package, a delicate little box. "Want to try some?" he asked. He casually handed me a piece. It was chocolate. "Don't you hate chocolate?" I asked. He froze for a moment before replying. "Once in a while is fine, and it's a young girl's gesture. After all, it'd be a waste to throw it away." I felt completely frozen in place. His words echoed over and over in my mind. So he knew. He knew how precious it is when someone pours their heart into loving you. He knew that such feelings shouldn't be brushed aside. And yet I still remembered. That year, on his birthday, I had carefully prepared homemade chocolates. I handed them to him with trembling anticipation, hoping he'd take a bite. He only unwrapped them, glanced inside, and asked, "Does anyone even eat chocolate?" Then he casually brushed my cheek with his fingers and said, "I'm not really into it. Don't waste it. Here, you eat it." Stiff and silent, I took the box back. On my way home, I threw it into the trash. A heart that isn't cherished ends up with the same fate as garbage, discarded. "Brenda." Gregory calling my name snapped me back to reality. "HM? You've been really distracted lately." I stayed silent. He tapped the desk. "There's a new movie out. I'll take you to see it." "Compensation?" I bit my lip. "Which showing?" The cowardice of my own feelings made me despise myself. That evening, when I went to see Nova, I ran into her arguing with Logan again. It was entirely one-sided, Nova mocking him. Logan just listening without talking back. "Breezy, come quick. Come help me." The moment Logan saw me, he stood up and walked out. As he passed me, he said, "Don't give her food she's not allowed to eat." I shot him a glare and walked over. Angry again. "Nova? Being angry isn't good for you." She was still puffed up with rage. "I can't help it. It's so annoying. If you've got anger, take it out on him." I said gently. "He won't talk back anyway. Doesn't that make you feel a little better?" Nova widened her big eyes at me, then said vindicatively, "Do you know that Gregory is getting married?" The fruit knife in my hand slipped. A long cut appeared, and only when the blood started to spread did the pain finally reach my nerves. "Breezy!" Nova hurriedly pressed the call button, panicking as she called people in to bandage me. After everything was finally wrapped up and we sat down again, Nova didn't dare let me hold a knife anymore. She patted her chest to calm herself, while I sat there in a daze. "You really didn't know," she said quietly. She looked guilty. I smiled and comforted her. "Does it really make a difference whether I knew or not?" Her eyes kept drifting to my injured hand. "It makes a huge difference. If I'd known, I wouldn't have said anything." After soothing her, I headed back. Seeing the darkened light at home, I couldn't help wondering, where was Gregory now? By his fiancée's side? With the small-time influencer? Or with just any girl at all? In any case, he wouldn't be with me. Chapter 2. I knew the girl Gregory got engaged to. She was the only daughter of the Zhou group. I remembered her clearly from the last time we discussed cooperation. She looked me up and down and said, "Assistant Brenda, right?" I reached out my hand. "President Zhou, looking forward to working with you." She smiled for no apparent reason. "Yes, we'll be seeing a lot of each other in the future." I didn't understand it back then. Now I do. The wound on my hand throbbed faintly. Maybe it was because winter was too cold. I couldn't stop shivering, my whole body trembling uncontrollably. I asked myself, Breezy, how did you end up like this? How did things turn into this? I didn't even ask Gregory about the wedding. I found a small apartment and slowly moved my things out. Gregory rarely came home, and even when he did, he never noticed. He only cared about his own feelings. Lately, I'd been visiting Nova a lot. She'd grown terribly thin and was always asleep. When the nurse came back to change her dressing, the young girl's eyes were red. I patted her shoulder to comfort her. She smiled at me through tears and whispered, "Spend more time with her." I felt like crying. Nova was skin and bones now. Even the junk food I brought her, she couldn't eat anymore, and even if she forced some down, she'd throw it up soon after. I squeezed her fingers, and tears fell anyway. I hurried to wipe them away, but no matter how hard I tried, they wouldn't stop. "Hey, why are you crying?" I looked up. "Nova, want some water?" "I'm asking you, why are you crying?" She struggled to lift her hand, trying to wipe my tears. "Nova, you can't die. I don't have any other friends." I took her hand, pressed it against my cheek, and whispered, "You're my only friend." She tugged at the corner of her mouth. "Serves you right. I told you to make friends, but you always spent all your time chasing men. Regret it now?" I shook my head. "I do have a good friend. I have a good friend. My only good friend." She didn't speak again. Even breathing was difficult for her now. All she could do was let her eyes redden along with mine. What am I supposed to do? My good friend. I haven't even seen you be happy yet. I finally couldn't hold it in anymore and buried my face against her bed, crying. Nova laughed and said, "Breezy, cry like this at my grave too. It'll make it look like I was really loved." Nova, ha 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 ha. Stop crying. You look awful when you cry. Sea City was hit by a heavy snowstorm. After the snow melted, there were 2 bright sunny days. The movie Gregory asked me to see was scheduled for today. I hesitated for a long time, but still went to the agreed place without telling Gregory. Usually, for dates like this, I had to remind him again and again before he remembered. This time, I said nothing. The movie started at 7 p.m. I arrived early and sat on the bench outside the theater, waiting. Time passed second by second. I counted the couples walking past me. 51, 52. The movie is starting. Please prepare for ticket check. A staff member shouted while maintaining order. I stayed seated, waiting. Only when the movie actually began did I stand up and walk away. This wasn't the first time Gregory had stood me up. When was the first time? I shook his arm and asked, "Tomorrow is our 4th anniversary. Can you go see the new movie with me?" He took my phone, fiddled with it for a bit, and replied casually, "Romance movies are so cheesy. I don't want to watch that." "Then we can watch something you like, okay?" I carefully planned everything and arrived early to wait in front of the theater. I sent him message after message. No reply. Then, as the previous screening let out, I saw Gregory, with his arm around another girl. My phone rang. "What's up?" "I was just asking if you remembered we were supposed to see a movie together." He sighed. "Another day. I'm really tired today. But, today is our 4th anniversary. It's just an anniversary. We can celebrate next year." That young girl smiled as she walked over to him. He hurriedly hung up my call. After that, I never stepped into a movie theater again. I always felt like I'd see Gregory inside, standing beside someone who wasn't me. It started snowing again. As I passed a trash can, I threw away the 2 movie tickets. Chapter 3. After I stopped working, I went to Nova's place often. She was usually asleep, but on one sunny day, she looked unusually lively. She said, "Breezy, take me out for a walk." "I'm sorry, my good friend." Nova was crying. She sat quietly in the sunlight, bathing in its warmth, staring steadily at Logan. "I can only let you be the one to see me off." She held my hand and talked about our earliest dreams, our first wishes, our best times. She said she had walked too long a road, that she felt lonely now, that she wanted to go see her family. She said, "Breezy, you have to be happy." She said, "Breezy, You have to be fulfilled. She said. Breezy. I'm going now. Don't be afraid. I clutched her hand, crying so hard I could barely breathe. Nova. Don't go. Please, don't go. She struggled to pat my hand. Breezy. Don't be afraid. Do what you want to do. Be happier. I'll bless you. You are my only good friend. Nova. Don't sleep. Don't go. At the very end, she said to me, Breezy, don't cry. In that warm sunlight, I lost my only good friend. Logan was more prepared than I was, and much calmer. He took care of Nova's funeral arrangements. I clenched my teeth and glared at him. He didn't care. He just walked over and asked. Gregory asked if you're here. What should I tell him? Tell him I'm not. Got it. Other than that, we didn't speak again. I cried so much in front of Nova's grave. She had written her will long ago, leaving all her money to the nurse. When the nurse came to pay her respects, she supported me and whispered. She said she was joking. She didn't want you crying in front of her memorial. She'd be worried. I cried even harder. When I turned around, I saw Gregory. There was a ring on his hand, flashing under the sunlight. Oh, he's engaged. He walked up and stopped in front of me. Brenda, what's going on with you? Why aren't you coming home? Why did you delete my contact information? I'm talking to you. He fired off question after question. I had no desire to answer any of them. What was there to say? I was mourning my friend. He was preparing to marry his beloved bride. What was left for us to talk about? I took a step back and looked at him. He still looked the same as he did back then, exactly like the man I once loved. Gregory, I'm 28 this year. Time flies, doesn't it? He looked confused, but still replied patiently. Yeah, the year you agreed to be with me, I was only 18. 10 years. I pointed at his ring. Isn't it ridiculous? You're about to get married, yet you still plan on being in a relationship with me? He quickly hid his hand behind his back. When he lowered it again, the ring was gone. It's just a ring. I lifted my head and pulled my coat tighter. The early spring night wind was biting, but it made me clear-headed. Let's break up. Gregory, what did you say? I raised my hand and pointed at the most distant star in the sky. You're too bright. Gregory, you've always been the most dazzling star in my heart. All these years, my world has been like the sky, empty of everything except you. Brenda. I cut him off. But not anymore. Not anymore. I said it was time for me to go somewhere filled with sunlight. Gregory turned and walked away, leaving behind a single sentence, take care of yourself. I watched his back for a long time, until he disappeared from my sight. Chapter 4. After saying goodbye to Nova, I moved quickly to settle what I wanted to do. A dessert shop. It was our very first dream. Interior design. Coordinating with all kinds of people. I was so busy every day my feet barely touched the ground. If Gregory hadn't kept calling, I would almost have forgotten his existence. Buzz. 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 I sighed and answered the call. It was already the third one Gregory had made today. Hello. Where's my seal? I ran it through my mind and replied. It should be in the office, left side. The third cabinet. All the way in the back. Found it. Then he hung up. I efficiently organized all the detailed notes and handed them to a colleague I knew well, asking her to pass them to Gregory's new secretary. Boss Gregory hasn't hired a new secretary, she said. I hesitated for a moment. Then please print them out and leave them on his desk for me. Thanks. Okay. I blocked this phone number as well and went back to studying my design drafts with a clear mind. When the weather warmed up, looking at the shop, now more than halfway finished, put me in a good mood. Brenda, the colleague I knew well, was complaining to me for the second time today. What's wrong? I asked, tilting my head with my phone tucked between my shoulder and ear. Gregory has turned into a full-on work machine. Nothing can shake his determination to work. Do you know we've already exceeded this quarter's performance targets? Isn't that a good thing? I want a vacation. A vacation! The girl screamed hoarsely on the other end. I couldn't help but laugh. Then call one of the girls around him. Anyone will do. Ask if she has time to go on a date with Gregory. If she does, make an itinerary and ask him if he's willing. I offered the suggestion casually. The other end suddenly fell into an eerie silence. Confused, I asked, Sabine? Why aren't you saying anything? Sabine spoke with difficulty. Brenda, are you really not coming back? Yeah, my shop's almost finished. I'll invite you over to eat when it opens. Brenda. Very quickly, a different voice came through the line. Brenda, what kind of shop could you possibly open? How much money can that even make? The voice was so loud I moved the phone away from my ear. Gregory? Brenda, I'm hanging up now. Bye-bye. The call ended abruptly. For a moment, I wondered if there was something wrong with my hearing, but I was too busy to think much of it. Later, Sabine even sent me a message to apologize. I thoughtfully organized and sent her the contact information of the girls who had previously been close to Gregory. She didn't reply. Chapter 5. After the weather warmed up, my new shop finally opened. I personally settled on the name, Gallery of Childhood. When my mom came to inspect the place, she gave me a suggestion. Won't people think this is an art studio? Like, for learning how to paint? I thought she had a point. So I designed a huge cake to place beside the sign. On opening day, I finally saw Logan again. I'd already heard he was back, but I hadn't realized how much he'd changed. Can you sell me a cake? He asked. I stood still. He smiled faintly with a pale face and said, Isn't it written right there? Let every customer feel happy. I almost wanted to laugh at him, but then he said, I'm going to see Nova. I hope she feels happy. The words I was about to say got stuck in my throat. After a long silence, I went to make one for him. Tell Nova, if it doesn't taste good, she can come into my dreams and complain. That brat hasn't shown up even once. My voice was hoarse as I handed it to him. He just smiled. When he turned to leave, he placed a thick stack of bills on the counter. Congratulations on opening. The name is great. Wishing you prosperity. A good luck gift. I accepted it. Sabine really did bring colleagues from the old company to support my opening. I happily welcomed them in and showed them the new items in my shop. I also had everyone fill out a questionnaire for customer feedback. Sabine pulled me aside and whispered, Gregory's gone crazy lately. He suddenly said he's not getting married anymore. I shrugged and didn't think much of it. Then just do what I said, make him a dating itinerary so he stops causing trouble. Sabine pressed her lips together and nodded firmly. Recently, there was someone who came to the dessert shop almost every day. He'd prop up his canvas and sit there painting from morning till night. He said he was a painter, an unknown nobody from the 18th tier. As he put it, sometimes we chatted. He talked about the places he'd been. He said, I really like painting people. Everyone's eyes hold something different. Some eyes are like crystal, some like amber, some chaotic, but beautiful. All beautiful. Can you paint one for me? I asked with a smile. He said yes. One quiet afternoon with no customers, I sat on a bench as his model. The sunlight was warm, the air was still, and I felt peaceful. The day he gave me the painting, he walked me home. Did you see anything in my eyes? I asked with a smile. Yes. The painter smiled back. Peace. A kind of peace I really long for. I mulled over his words and smiled. I wasn't a peaceful person before. Really? He asked. Now I'm curious, what kind of person were you before? Shadows from the trees dappled the ground. I smiled, about to answer, when someone interrupted me. Brenda. I froze for a moment, then saw Gregory. It looks like he has something to say to you. I'll head back first, the painter said. I nodded and said I'd treat him to a cup of grapefruit tea tomorrow. Then it's a deal. Gregory didn't even wait for the painter to leave before snatching my portrait and inspecting it from top to bottom. Who is this guy? I was irritated, but still tried to stay polite. Give it back to me. Gregory sneered and tore the painting to shreds in seconds. Portraits now? What's next? Private sketches? I rubbed my head, my temples throbbing. How did you know where I was? I followed you from your shop. And who's that pretty boy, laughing and chatting with you? He's a customer from my shop. Heh, so your shop runs this kind of business now? Customers walking the owner home? Drawing her portraits? I was shaking with anger. I stepped forward and slapped him hard across the face. Brenda! Gregory exploded. I said coldly. He walked me home because I'm an adult single woman, and he's an adult single man. We're trying to get to know each other. Who gave you permission to get to know him? His voice doubled in volume. echoing through the empty night. I'm an independent person if I allow it myself. I don't need anyone else's permission. Gregory, I want you to leave my place immediately, or I will call the police. I turned and walked upstairs. He followed closely behind me. Gregory, I said, my voice firm. What? You won't even let me inside? I stopped, took out my phone, and said, hello, is this 110? I'm calling because, Brenda. He grabbed my phone and hung up, his tone harsh. Are you throwing a tantrum with me right now? I sighed. Gregory, you're the one who doesn't understand the situation. I already broke up with you. Gregory, don't come looking for me again, otherwise, I really will call the police. I don't want things to end this way. Chapter 6. The painter didn't come the next day. I even felt a little disappointed, but the shop stayed busy. When there were fewer customers, I'd play a song I liked. Life felt easy. A week later, the painter pushed the door open again, smiling. He handed me a new portrait. Huh? I didn't even model for this, I said in surprise. It's fine. I've been sitting here for more than half a month. I remember already, he said, the beautiful shop owner. His compliment made me happy. What do you want to eat? It's on the house today. After ordering, he sat at the counter, curious. I asked, do you have some kind of foresight? How did you know my painting got ruined? He smiled. The man I saw in front of your place last time looked a bit aggressive. I was worried you might be in danger, so I stood around for a while. I heard your conversation. Sorry about that. I swirled my cup before answering. Thank you for thinking that far ahead. Girls tend to be more vulnerable. It's what I should do. I smiled at him, then added a pudding to his order. I really like your painting, I said. You're very talented. The painter took a sip of tea and smiled. Shop owner Brenda. You can just call me Brenda. He curled his lips into a small smile. Brenda, I'm leaving, heading farther west. I froze for a moment. You're leaving? Actually, Sea City is great. The scenery's been beautiful lately. The weather's nice. The desserts are delicious, and the shop owner is very pretty. For a while, I really wanted to stay. I lowered my head, waiting for what came next. But the day I walked you home, when you saw that man, your eyes changed. The corners of my mouth slowly fell. I thought about it for a week before I understood. It was probably intensity, a kind of vitality, very different from when I painted you. Was he someone you loved before? He asked softly. Yes, I said. He was someone I loved before. Looking out the window, I thought Gregory really was different. No matter when he appeared, he always managed to catch my eye. I walked the painter to the door and wished him a smooth journey. It's a pity you won't get to see Sea City in autumn. What a pity, no chance to step any closer. He opened his arms and asked, may I have a hug? I stepped forward, wrapped my arms around him briefly, then stepped back. He said, I don't know why you seem so resistant to him, but Brenda, I hope you live the life you want. I nodded. I will, thank you. As I turned around, I saw Gregory standing beneath the shade of a tree. He met my gaze and walked toward me. I spoke first. What exactly do you want? Gregory clenched his fist, then held something out to me. The movie last time, I forgot. Let's go watch this together. I looked at the words under the shifting light. Gregory, you never watch romance movies with me. Why now? Gregory said matter-of-factly. Don't you like this kind? I shook my head. You like them. Everything between us has always been what you like. Do you know what I like to eat? What I like to do? What I like to watch? Gregory, you can watch romance movies with other people, right? I caught him that time. He was watching, with that girl, the very same hugely popular romance movie he'd once refused to watch with me. I still felt wronged. I lifted my head and asked him, why is it okay with other people, but not with me? He didn't answer, but I already knew. Because with other people, he'd had brief flashes of love. With me, he never had. I knew it all along. I was just pretending to be stupid. The shop was always popular with kids. One young couple stood out in particular. The little girl was constantly circling the boy, sticking close to him, just like me. A long time ago, Gregory wasn't someone who never went on dates with me. He just had no patience. He was always impatient, so impatient that even when we were parting and I sat across from him crying, he'd only say with mild annoyance, "All right. Stop crying. Go wherever you're supposed to go." I tugged on his sleeve and asked, "Then you and I'm right here. I'm not running away. You can come back anytime." And later, when I did come back, I caught one young, pretty girl after another by his side. I tapped the counter lightly and thought, being young really is nice. Only when you're young do you have that kind of reckless courage. When I closed the shop, it had already turned a little cold. I locked up, turned around, and saw a painting right in front of me. I jumped back in shock. "Gregory?" He awkwardly poked his head out from behind it and said, "I." I glued it back together. I looked at the painting, crudely pieced back into shape. In my mind, I could almost see Gregory, body stiff, face set, bent over, picking up the fragments one by one. "If you like this painting," he said quietly, sounding inexplicably sad, "I can give it back to you." I blinked, forcing back the moisture in my eyes before answering. "But I already have a new one. Paintings. And life too." He froze for a moment before asking, "Brenda, do you not want to be with me anymore?" I looked straight into his eyes and answered firmly, "No, I don't." "What if I want you to be with me?" he asked. I tilted my head and looked at him. "Are you begging me?" He hesitated, then nodded. I sighed and said to him, "So this is what it feels like, being begged by someone you don't love. So this is what it feels like, Gregory. Now I understand why you thought my love was cheap. When you give up your boundaries in love, you're already cheap enough, Gregory. Now you're the one begging me. I'll give this line back to you." He stood frozen in place, not knowing what to do with the painting in his hands. "Back then, you were the one who begged me to be with you. I'm giving that sentence back to you." Chapter 7. When the first snow fell, I felt that I should have someone by my side, so I happily accepted my mom's invitation and went on 2 blind dates. But neither of them was quite right. I began to doubt the success rate of speed dating and felt that I had been a little too hasty. I decided to slow things down and take my time. I didn't return to the shop until 2 days later. My little clerk leaned in and whispered to me, "That man, he comes every day. Every single day, boss. Do you know him?" I shook my head. "I don't know him." Gregory always stood at a distance, with the heavy snow falling. His figure was almost impossible to make out. As usual, I ignored him and walked toward home. It snowed heavily for several days in a row. The snow melted, froze into ice, then snow fell again on top of the ice. It felt as if my feet had wheels under them, and I took tiny, careful steps forward. I clearly saw the green light before I started crossing. But the road was slippery. A car couldn't brake in time and jerked the steering wheel hard to the right. I had just lowered my head slightly when I saw a car charging straight toward me. All I could hear were the screeching sounds of sudden braking. My mind was screaming wildly, "Run, run," but my feet wouldn't move. Bang, the world spun. "Brenda." So many voices rang in my ears, but that one was the clearest. Even though my body couldn't react, my mind had already given the answer. It was Gregory. It was Gregory. I had a very, very long dream. I dreamed of a long time ago. I saw myself holding a box of carefully made chocolates, waiting in front of Gregory's desk. I desperately wanted to reach out and touch her, to tell her not to wait anymore, that he wouldn't want them. But I couldn't. I could only watch as Gregory took the chocolates, opened the box, closed it again, and returned it to her hands. I stood apart, watching the little girl's expression, my nose aching with sourness. She lowered her head, her hand brushing over the box again and again. She hesitated, then offered it forward once more, only to see that Gregory had already turned away. She bit her lip, looking as if she wanted to cry but didn't dare to. I followed behind her, watching her get pushed and squeezed by the crowd like a pitiful sandwich filling. Yet she still clutched her backpack tightly to her chest. Inside were the local specialties she had brought for the one she loved. She had been on the train for more than 10 hours. Out of fear, she barely drank any water and hardly went to the restroom. She just held onto that bag, as if it could give her more comfort. I wanted to tell her not to go. There would be no response. All she would see would be a beautiful girl walking out of his room, telling her that they had just slept together. But I still couldn't. I could only watch. Even when she grew a little older, tied up her hair, and put on high heels, she would still lean on her arm by the window, gazing outside, waiting for her beloved to come back. I covered my eyes and thought, don't wait anymore. Don't wait anymore. He'll only throw away the cake you made early in the morning, say you're annoying, and tell you not to make it again. There will be no response. There won't be. Such precious feelings, give them to yourself. Breezy. I stood beside her, watching her cry. I loosely wrapped my arms around her, as if that way I could hug the version of myself crying alone. Breezy, please. Love yourself. Love yourself. Breezy. Breezy. I groggily opened my eyes and crashed straight into Gregory's gaze. For a moment, I felt dazed. Those eyes that were always so indifferent, now they reflected my figure. Only then did I realize, belatedly, that I wanted to cry. Breezy, Breezy, are you feeling better? My mom pushed Gregory's hand aside and rushed over to ask me. My whole body hurt, but I still forced a smile. I'm fine. I wanted to reassure her. That's good. That's good. My mom stood beside me crying, while my stepfather stood next to her, comforting her. I painfully turned my neck and saw Gregory standing off to the side. It felt like waking up from a long dream, as if I had lived through decades of time. If you asked me what the most unwavering thing in my life was, it would be loving Gregory, charging forward without hesitation. Loving Gregory. I blinked, but tears still disobediently spilled from my eyes. Breezy, where does it hurt? Gregory rushed over anxiously, bending down in front of me to ask. When I didn't answer, he asked again. Breezy, where does it hurt? I shook my head, only feeling that my tears wouldn't stop flowing. It's Breezy. After all these years, you finally know my nickname. The name only those closest to me call. It's Breezy. So finally, can I become your precious one? So late. So late. Gregory. Chapter 8. After my body recovered a little, I was able to sit up on my own. I asked my mom and the others to go home so they wouldn't have to keep worrying at my bedside. The room was left with just Gregory and me. Don't you need to go back to work? I asked. He silently peeled some fruit and said, no. Looking at the sunlight outside the window, I said, it's not snowing anymore. He tugged at the corner of his mouth. You've just been lying here too long. Is that so? Maybe it was. After the heavy snow, new branches had already begun to sprout. It was spring. I looked at Gregory and thought, saying goodbye in spring is a very romantic thing. I took the fruit from his hand. Can we talk? You and me. Why didn't you go to work? I asked gently. Because I was afraid. It was rare to see Gregory look this vulnerable. He said, I was really scared. You were lying in a pool of blood. No matter how much I called you, you wouldn't wake up. There was blood everywhere. I was so scared. Breezy. He covered his eyes and began to cry, as if he had been dragged back to that moment, helpless and not knowing what to do. Breezy. Don't leave me. Breezy. Don't leave me. I tilted my head back, desperately holding back my own tears, gripping the bedsheets tightly to stop myself from reaching out to wipe his tears away. Gregory. Don't cry. I said softly. I'm no longer the person who can wipe your tears. Breezy. I wiped the corner of my eyes before continuing. I had a dream from a long time ago. I watched myself get hurt by you again and again. It hurt so much. The tears in my heart almost drowned me. I smiled as I spoke to him. Gregory. My heart aches so much for myself. At the edge of life and death. I pitied myself so deeply. Gregory's lips were trembling. He hurriedly reached for my hand. Breezy. I might not be able to stop loving you right away. I said. But I want to try. Breezy. Don't abandon me. Please. It was the first time I had ever seen Gregory cry like this, as if he were terrified of being abandoned by me. He clutched my hand tightly, so tightly it hurt. Breezy. I'll change everything. Really. I'll change everything. Gregory looked at me with pleading eyes, as if the moment I nodded, he would trade the whole world for me. Breezy. Don't leave me alone. I'm so scared. I gently tightened my fingers and pulled my hand free. Gregory. No, that was my answer. We had good times, we really did. He said hurriedly, as if trying to pull those memories back. I smiled through my tears. So it wasn't just me who remembered. Such pure feelings. Such tender emotions. Those kisses brushed against the corners of my lips on countless summer nights. It wasn't only me who remembered. Yes, we did have good times. When we were students. Those were the happiest days I can remember. But later, you stopped liking me. Don't you remember? You ignored me, hurt me, brushed me off, all because you didn't like me anymore. And yet I still couldn't bear to move forward. You've already forgotten those memories. If I forget them too, then who will remember? Memory is a strange thing. It only traps those who want to be trapped. I was the one who built my own prison, but I've figured it out now. Gregory, a past that's already been abandoned should be sealed away in the long river of time. I should walk out of it and move toward a new life. Gregory could no longer say anything. Pale, he finally murmured, even if we can't go back to the past, we can still create a future. I slowly shook my head. There are too many memories in the past. Every time I see you, I remember how cowardly I once was. How could I still have the courage to create a new future with you? Gregory, I don't want to keep worrying that you'll forget our plans again and leave me alone at the movie theater. Worrying that another young girl will come up to me and say there's a mole under your right collarbone. Worrying that you'll rush over to hug me straight from someone else's place. Still carrying someone else's scent. Gregory, I'm scared. I want a steadier kind of relationship, one that only takes two people to maintain. He said quietly, I can do that too. I can have that kind of relationship with you. I just shook my head. You can't. The one who holds the upper hand in love can never get used to being the one who gives more. Right now you think you can, but one day you'll ask yourself, why should you? Once you've enjoyed love without sacrifice, you can't accept being wronged anymore. Everyone is like this. You don't need to feel guilty. I looked at him and said, and you're no exception. He couldn't find anything more convincing to say. We fell into silence, facing each other. Gregory, we both need to take responsibility for ourselves, for our actions, and for the price they carry. In those memories, I finally saw myself clearly. In that pool of blood, he finally saw himself clearly. What's heartbreaking is that we can only walk in opposite directions now. Sunlight spread across the earth again. I thought, I can face every winter that comes after this. Alone. Chapter 9. After I fully recovered, I went back to the shop. Gregory still came, but most of the time we each kept to our own business. The only difference was that he started inviting me out, and I turned him down every single time. Xiao Yen, would you like to go watch a movie together? I finished wiping the cup in my hand and thought of that movie no one ever showed up for. No, I don't really like movies. Then how about dinner together? No, I don't really like eating. You're blocking the customers behind you. Oh, when the weather turned warm, I met some nice, warm people. Unfortunately, none of them worked out. I thought being alone isn't so bad either. I adopted a cat. It's very spirited, and many people come to the shop just to see it. I renovated the shop again and even set aside a small garden outside to grow the flowers and plants I like. The decor turned out well, so people often came by to take photos. Business just kept getting better. Gregory still came, sitting in the corner drinking coffee. Sabine said he always stared blankly at a painting on the wall. It looked like me. I smiled at her. You saw it wrong. Really? But it looks so much like. I hurried her off to get cups, and the little girl was chased away in a daze. After a while, the truth couldn't be hidden anymore. Later, she said to me with absolute certainty, "That's you, Brenda. How could you lie to me?" I couldn't argue back, because Gregory got completely drunk at a company dinner, crying and asking why I couldn't give him another chance. Someone whispered about calling Brenda, but he snatched the phone away. His voice was very soft, but I still heard it clearly. Don't call her. Don't. She'll find me annoying. If she gets annoyed, she won't see me anymore. I laughed while watching the video. I didn't lie to you. I could never be your boss's wife. The girl asked in confusion why. Because I'm already the boss, I said, smiling brightly. When winter arrived, I started closing the shop earlier. One day, during heavy snow, He stopped me outside the shop, stumbling over his words. He sang the entire happy birthday song, then took out a SpongeBob cake, exactly the same as the one from back then. I looked at him, conflicted, and asked, "You know I run a dessert shop, and you still went somewhere else to buy a cake?" I thought, Gregory really is a clumsy person. He always was, whether back in school or now. I had a lively birthday celebration with my family. My shop assistants there too. I even put a cup on the table for Nova. That made everything complete, family and friends, all by my side. Happy birthday. I will be happy forever. Chapter 10. Business at the shop stayed consistently good. I ran it on thin margins but high volume, and it was thriving. When spring came the following year, I opened a second branch. It was on the back street behind our old middle school. Logan's shop was right across from it. I counted on my fingers. He'd been running that place for 3 years now. After some thought, I went in and ordered a bowl. When he came out wearing an apron, we both froze for a moment. Logan looked terrible, so thin he barely resembled himself. As I ate the rice noodles, I asked him why he had come back. He smiled faintly before saying, "I didn't leave here alone back then." "Oh, he left with Nova. Now that she's back here, where else could I go?" "Anywhere," I said. "You could go anywhere, be with anyone. Why stay here?" Logan didn't answer. He just wiped the table in front of him. But before I left, he asked softly, "Does Nova ever appear in your dreams?" So Nova never visited him. I smiled. "Yeah, she says she's doing well." Logan gave a bitter smile. "Is that so? That's good. That's good." The renovation of the backstreet shop ran into some problems. My mom introduced me to a real expert, a fair, chubby man who looked honest and good-natured. The first time we met, he awkwardly called me Miss Brenda, so startled that I bowed repeatedly. "Hello, Mr. Duncan." He was a very gentle person. When we met the second time, he complimented my outfit. "It really suits your skin tone." But I'd been in a rush that day and had only thrown on a dull yellow outer layer. For a moment, I genuinely couldn't tell if he was praising me. So I stammered, Thank you for the compliment." "You're welcome. You're welcome," he replied. He was bowing so deeply his waist looked like it might snap. The third time we met, we had a meal together, just simple fast food. I finished eating in a frenzy before meeting his surprised gaze. "Brenda, you have quite an appetite." Once again, I was stuck. Is that a compliment or not? It really sounds like sarcasm. "You don't eat much," I said. We were about the same age, and after a few awkward encounters, we gradually grew more familiar. Duncan was a good man, the kind who makes sure you walk on the inside of the road, drapes a jacket over your shoulders when it's cold, notices your preferences over a single meal and remembers them forever. A true gentleman. When the leaves were fully green, I decided to try dating him. I went to bring Nova another bouquet of flowers and told her that I was ready to love someone again. I was very lucky. Things with Duncan were genuinely pleasant. He was an interesting person, someone who truly loved life. He enjoyed raising pets, tending plants, and even keeping up with the times by renovating his home. It had been a long time since I'd experienced the feeling of letting go completely and trusting someone else to handle things. It was novel and happy. We'd go watch newly released movies together, discuss their bizarre plot choices, try new restaurants near home, mark the ones we wanted to revisit, and somehow end up with a small stack of notes. Sometimes we made no plans at all. We'd just hold hands and stroll around a nearby garden. Even without talking, we held hands. That gave me a great sense of peace. Life felt calmer. Once, while on a date, we ran into Gregory. I introduced him openly. "This is my boyfriend. This is my former boss." Gregory's expression turned awful. He didn't even shake hands, just turned around and left. I smiled and said, "That's why I don't work under him anymore. Terrible temper. Way too petty." My boyfriend smiled gently and said, "It's okay. It's all okay. Former boss, no problem. Former lover, also no problem." The following year, I accepted his proposal, a cause for celebration. I had regained the ability to love someone again. Chapter 11. That year, I was 32, and at last, I was ready to accept a simple kind of love. After closing the shop one night, I was walking home when I ran into Gregory by the roadside. I crossed the street. He stood on the opposite side. We looked straight at each other. I thought for a moment, then waved at him and placed the cake in my hand on the steps beside me. The last piece of cake. It's for you. I'm getting married. I hope you'll be happy too. So this is what it feels like when someone is truly happy. They can sincerely wish happiness for others. There won't be a last piece of cake anymore. I watched the red light turn green. As he walked toward me, I waved again and said silently in my heart, Gregory, goodbye. Gregory quickened his steps and shouted across the crowd, Breezy! I stopped in my tracks but didn't turn around. He followed it with a softer call, Breezy. I didn't look back. The part of my life connected to Gregory, at last. I was saying goodbye. I hope you won't stay trapped there either. Preparing for a wedding is always chaotic. I don't even know when I received a package. The box was very light. When I opened it, there was only a letter inside. I sat in the middle of a pile of parcels, directing my husband to go make dinner, and opened the letter. Beep beep beep, it's me. Breezy, it's Nova. My tears burst out instantly. Is it 15 years later for you? It's 15 years earlier for me. This is the time letter we sent together. Do you remember? TSK. You definitely sent yours to Gregory. Unlike me, I still remembered to send one to you. This round, you lose. You said I'd choose love over friends, but you're the real one. You're 32 now, right? Yes. I nodded again and again. Then I'm 32 too. My vision blurred. You liar. Nova, you're still 28. It's so hard to imagine what we'll be like at 32. Did we open lots and lots of cake shops? Did we have lots and lots of kids? Forget it. Forget it. Having kids hurts, but I'm sure I'm still with Logan. What about you? Do you still like Gregory? Have you found someone new to love? Breezy, are you happy? Are you still my best friend? If we're not best friends anymore, I'll be really mad. Okay. Best friend. Logan and I had a fight. I'm recording it here. He's punished and not allowed to talk to me for a whole week. If you get this letter, bring it to show me. I'll make him kneel on the keyboard. Actually, there's nothing else I really want to say. 18-year-old Nova is very happy. Loves Logan very, very much. If he ever dares betray me, I won't let him go even as a ghost. I really like Breezy. And I hope Breezy becomes happy soon and meets the right person early. Breezy, go find Nova with this letter. Breezy, my forever best friend. Nova, to Breezy. The date at the end of the letter. 15 years ago. Breezy, my forever best friend. Nova, my forever best friend. I cried so hard among the piles of packages that I could barely catch my breath. My forever best friend, Breezy has met the right person. Breezy is living happily. Breezy misses you so much. What about you? Are you doing well? Are you happy? Are you joyful? And do you still love the one in your heart? Duncan came out, flustered, wiping my tears for me, even though he had no idea what had happened. He still comforted me softly. Breezy, it's okay. Don't cry. It's all right. Nova, can you see this? I've met the one I love. On my wedding day. I walked down the aisle holding my stepfather's arm. As the lights came on and the doors opened, I felt as if I could see Nova in the crowd, clapping with all her strength. Her eyes were full of tears, as though she was finally seeing me happy. While making the rounds to toast, I saw Gregory standing outside the wedding venue. Duncan held my hand and walked over with me. Gregory tugged at the corner of his mouth and said, "Congratulations on your marriage." Duncan nodded gently and said thank you, then lowered his voice to me. "I'll go inside. You two talk." Chapter 12. Gregory was dressed very formally today. I said, "You look like you're about to crash a wedding." He smiled, his eyes curving gently, and asked in an unusually soft voice, "Can I take you away?" I shook my head. Nope. He stepped a little closer, as if he wanted to take my hand, but quickly withdrew. His movement was fast, yet I still caught the familiar scent of fresh grass on him. "From now on, live well." "I will." He rubbed his nose. looking like he was about to cry. Then he said something he had never said before, something rare even during our most passionate days. "Today, you look beautiful, truly beautiful." He nodded repeatedly, as if trying to emphasize his words. I smiled. "Thank you, my husband says the same." Gregory gave me a large red envelope. I accepted it without guilt, considerate compensation for all those years of my youth. After thinking for a moment, I still explained to Duncan. "I really didn't invite him, I swear." Duncan smiled, dimples appearing. "Breezy, I'm not so insecure that I'd get jealous of people from the past. Let's live well together, from now on. Always together, that matters more than anything." Holding his hand, I lowered my head and smiled. Yes, life ahead matters more than anything. After the wedding, I went to Nova's grave again. "Nova, this is my bouquet. I'm giving it to you." I still couldn't help myself. I bent down, touched her photo, and cried softly. I received the letter written by 18-year-old Nova. I lowered my head, caught my breath, then said, "My forever best friend, did you see? I'm very happy. I'm giving you my bouquet. I hope it helps you meet the right person, and that in heaven, you'll live happily too." My husband comforted me, gently wiping away my tears. He said, "Hello, Nova. I'm Breezy's husband. Don't worry, I'll take good care of her." I touched her photo and looked at Nova, forever frozen at 28. Nova, forever young, forever beautiful. That evening, as we were leaving, I still saw Logan, holding a bouquet of white roses. "Did you receive Nova's letter?" I asked. "Yes." "What did she say?" Logan didn't answer. I didn't ask again. It was all in the past. That winter was especially cold, wrapped in layer after layer of thick cotton coats. I received another letter. "Brenda, please bury me close to Nova, as close as possible. I miss her too much. Those mistakes, I'll atone for them underground." Partings always happen on snowy days, with snow filling the sky. I came to the cemetery once more. Gregory was already there, waiting. "Logan asked you too?" I asked. "Yes. He already bought everything. Why ask us?" "Probably afraid that if you saw it was him, you'd scatter his ashes," Gregory said. I glared at him. Am I really that heartless? I stared at that time letter for a very long while before placing Logan's ashes into the grave he had prepared long ago, right beside Nova. "You're worried?" Gregory asked. "What's there to worry about? Nova's family is all here. When he was alive, he bullied her. If she gives him a hard time underground, he deserves it." Gregory smiled slightly. "Breezy, are you living well?" I pointed at my husband. "Yes, I'm living well. And you?" I asked. He didn't answer. I didn't press. There are countless ways to live well in this world. Having a pair of warm hands by your side isn't the only one. Gregory had already been luckier than most people in life. As for whether his bed felt cold in the middle of the night, that was no longer something I needed to think about. Gregory kept calling me Breezy, even after I had a child. Even after that child grew up, when we met again, he still called me Breezy. He stayed alone, but that was a story for later. He held an umbrella for me after I placed the white roses down. I said, "Winter is too cold. Next spring, we're planning to have a child." I looked at the photo. "Nova, when the time comes, I'll bring the child to see you. Let's go." I waved to Gregory. Holding my husband's warm hand, we walked toward home. That illusory love of our youth ultimately parted ways in the snow. Heavy snow covered the ground. No one looked back. Keep walking forward. Walk forward, and you'll reach a place warmed by sunlight, a good place. Epilogue, a letter from Nova to Logan. Logan, this is 18-year-old Nova. When you read this letter, remember to give me a hug, otherwise I won't easily forgive you for fighting with me. I'm running out of time. I still have to write to Breezy. Logan, I love you. Don't forget to kiss me.